And now it's time for Silly Songs with Larry, the part of the show where Larry comes out and sings a silly song. Ah, psych. Anyway, welcome back, everyone, to our wonderful podcast. My excuse to avoid putting away my grocery store items. And, finally we get to bring on Austin.
It is nice to
He's
actually
pretty
be here
cool.
this week.
He's pretty cool,
Yep, I
you know? And he's on a spare microphone today.
yep,
So,
my nice
he's
one
gonna
is
try to talk
going in.
loud, but it might be hard to hear him. So,
I should do my
Austin,
best and everything.
project a little more. Come on, man. We
Now,
want to be able to hear you. Anyway, we have a lot of things to talk about today. Some contenders in F1, the wild card weekend preview for the NFL, and assorted other items. So let's start with F1. So we haven't gotten to talk a lot about them. Last season, Lando Norris, quote unquote, won. Not a true champion. He's not championship material. But yeah, that happened. Max Verstappen almost got the win. It was really great. And sort of ended in tragedy. But now we're looking ahead to the 26th season. And Austin, he's much more F1 intelligent than I am. So he wants to go over someone he thinks can be a real contender this year,
so
who
I've got
might have been not thinking about last year at all.
I've got two updates, and yes, one of them is going to be so normally in F1 we have our three big contenders right now: Mercedes, McLaren, and Red Bull. And Ferrari, when they're at top shape, can be, but they're in a bit shambles right now. However, we have Williams coming up after Carlos Sainz was signed to Williams. The team has been talking back and forth, and Carlos has been giving feedback. And the team principal of Williams, has said Carlos Sainz isn't just good at giving feedback and helping the mechanics; he's got a rare talent at doing that. So we are looking at a possible Williams championship in 26, 27, 28, maybe. Who knows? But they are going to be up in contention for that. I could see
Intention, maybe.
I could see
So
Sainz being in the
Carlos
running of the
Sainz,
championship.
yeah, Carlos Sainz has always been a good driver. The question is, does Williams have the team around him that will allow him to succeed at that? The team, the car, the personnel.
I would very much say will the Williams' dream is to be back at the top where they used to be. They used to
Well, they
be.
haven't been up there for a while.
It's been a long time, but I mean, same with Ferrari, right? They used to be, now they're not. So hopefully they get that fixed. But I think Carlos Sainz is going to be huge for Williams.
Huge. Hmm.
Uh,
How,
it,
how do you think he's going to rank against all the other drivers this year?
Lando Norris is proven to be strong. Oscar Piastri is arguably stronger. He just got screwed over. Papaya rules. That's a whole other debate. Uh, it's theorized Max Verstappen hasn't even hit his peak yet. Multiple. Sebastian Vettel has talked about this. He thinks Max still has more ground to gain. Vettel being the only other Red Bull champion we've had so far.
Yeah,
Um,
they're not like the most successful team historically. It's just Max Verstappen.
it's always
Makes
been they
everyone
just happen to have the
think
best
about it.
driver more than the best car.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but we also have another update. We already have our first penalty of the 2026 season.
Oh, I think I did hear something about that. It was probably from you, though.
In Abu Dhabi 2024, I don't remember what Bottas did, but he either had to give up position and take a time penalty or take a 5 place grid penalty. He did not serve his grid penalty because that was the last race of the season. So, the beginning race in Australia in 2025, or 2026, my bad, Bottas is going to have to serve a 5 place grid penalty. So, he's going to want to score high in qualifying because he's dropping 5 places immediately.
These F1 penalties. Like, if you think that the football penalties are outrageous and stupid and don't make any sense, you're correct. But the F1 penalties can be even harder to follow. Some of them aren't good. And don't worry, horrible officiating is not just an NFL referee issue. The calling against Lando Norris that should have happened during Abu Dhabi, if there was no call, those football fans out there think that, what was it, the Rams and the Saints, at the time where the pass interference happened, but they didn't call it, sparking great outrage because it sent the Rams on to the Super Bowl, I think it was. And it robbed Drew Brees of a chance to go to another Super Bowl and fight against Tom Brady. That's the level of outrage that Austin and I possess towards this Lando Norris call that didn't happen. So sometimes the bad officiating leaves us with these great what ifs.
Yep. It was very much a illegal overtake on Yuki Tsunoda. Yuki got a 5-second penalty. Nothing happened to Norris.
So it's an unfortunate thing, the sports world. But speaking of the sports world, we do have the NFL's wild card weekend. Week 18 wraps up, so now we have the playoffs. Very exciting, I think. Now, I got a list right here. We got 7 games between the 14 teams that have gone to the playoffs, and none of them Austin is extremely familiar with. You said you've heard of the Rams and the Patriots and the Steelers, right?
Yeah.
Steelers. The Steelers are almost more, well, they're not has-beens. They were consistently really great for a long time ago. And then they were good for a little bit with Big Ben. Then they sort of sunk to this level of just good enough for the past, I don't even know how many years. Which is why, for the first game, I am predicting the Texans and the Steelers. I think it has been nice to see Aaron Rodgers back, and I think he has actually made the Steelers a better team. However, I think the Steelers' tradition of winning record, then first round playoff exit, will prevail. The Texans' defense is just too good, even if their offense isn't good this game, which it might not be because the Steelers' defense isn't bad. I still think that the Texans are going to win this game and send the Steelers home and Aaron Rodgers into retirement. All right. What else do we have? The Rams, Panthers. This is not a question. Give me the Rams. I mean, the Panthers beat the Rams once earlier this season, which is why people might think about this one a little too hard. But the Panthers have been wildly inconsistent this year. They got into the playoffs on a losing record because their division is so bad. I just don't see the Rams losing to the Panthers twice in one season. I don't think you are that inept to lose to the Panthers twice to be swept, especially a team that has been as good as the Rams. Matthew Stafford being an MVP favorite, it just, I would be shocked if the Panthers pulled off this win. Like, that would be upset of the year at this point. To be fair, the year's only been happening for what, 7, 8 days? But yeah, next game we got the Packers and the Bears. This is a game I wouldn't be surprised if anybody won because both teams have proven that while they do have some weaknesses, they can both be very good. I would have definitely taken the Packers as a sure bet before Micah Parsons got injured. Now that he's injured, I'm going to say the Packers still, but that's like a 51% confidence in the Packers, 49 in the Bears, and I would not be shocked if the Bears came out on top or the Packers. I think it all comes down to Jordan Love, how he performs, and if he's healthy throughout the whole game. Jags, Bills. You like the Jaguars, don't you, Austin?
I don't care for any form of
Cat,
football, to be honest.
cat with the cat with its much needed fur repeal, you know, the grrr, you know? Anyway, basically, the Bills have not been elite this year. They're actually coming in as the 7 seed, I believe. And that's that's not very elite or traditional for them. They've won their division for the past 6 years, and then they lost it to the Patriots this season. And none of Josh Allen's receivers are very elite. It's sort of like a Chiefs scenario because except he has a good running back, like a really good running back. James Cook was the top running back this year, led the league in rushing yards. I believe that he is almost more the key to this Buffalo offense than Josh Allen himself this year. And the Jags have had a pretty good defense throughout the year. So I think if the Jags can limit the rushing ability of James Cook and Josh Allen because he's a very mobile quarterback, between those things, I think that's how the Jags can win. I believe they will win. So give me the Jaguars there. Eagles 49ers. I hate the Eagles so much. And their offense has been flimsy, I guess, this year. 49ers defense was decimated by injuries, especially their star players, Fred Warner and Nick Bosa. However, Fred Warner was trying to make a return for the playoffs. I don't think he'll be ready for this game. Might be something to look out for. Should the 49ers beat the Eagles, which I still think they will, because their offense, while it wasn't electric this past game against the Seahawks, it was incredible the 2 weeks before. So I think they pull off the win. I think it's probably going to be closer than anyone wants it to be, but I'm going to have faith in Brock Purdy. Also, because I really want the Eagles to lose. Great. Chargers, Patriots. I don't like the Chargers for obvious reasons, but I do think that they're injured enough that it's going to be difficult/impossible for them to beat the Patriots, who, despite having what some may call a cupcake schedule, the easiest since like the 1999 Rams, I do think that the Chargers are still going to lose because of how bad their offensive line has been due to injuries and just poor performance. And Patriots are going to win it, especially with Milton Williams back. He's just a really good game wrecker. And with that, you have Revan's picks for the playoff winners: Rams, Packers, Jags, 49ers, Patriots, and Texans. Do I would I be happy seeing any of these teams win the Super Bowl? Not really, except maybe the Rams. Rams or Seahawks, I think, would be my favorites to win the Super Bowl, but we'll see what happens because all of these other teams, they make me sad just a bit. Now, moving on from, boring stuff like football, we have entertainment to talk about. Certain micro trailers that have been a baffling new strategy of marketing from Marvel Studios. The Avengers Doomsday ads. Also, how many of you seen of these ads? How many of them have you seen around?
I've seen 3 online currently.
Okay, so it was like the X-Men, the Thor, and the Captain America
Yep.
one. Okay, so my first question to Marvel would have been, why release them a year before the movie actually came out? I do think I know why, to some extent. Like if I'm Marvel, I'm thinking Avatar's not that good. See, it's just a little stale as far as story goes. The visuals are incredible, of course, but they're not the they don't have the most substance to them. It's all style, you know. So I'm trying to get people to go see the third one of these, and I need something to draw them in. What do? I release Doomsday trailers. I know that this would work because that's the only reason I was interested in seeing Fire and Ash so that I could go see the trailer. But I haven't even seen the other Avatar movies. I was gonna have to watch like 9 hours of Avatar for a 1 minute trailer. What really is a good marketing strategy to get me to waste that much time? I
I
just
mean,
think it's baffling in general.
I think it is also, you start out with trailers finally coming out, actual filmed trailers a year prior to the release could also be that, like, getting people ready, getting people like excited. What's next? What's the next teaser gonna be? What's the next this gonna be? And they're gonna have to wait out. So then they're gonna be excited when the next thing comes out.
Yes, but one of
Well,
the things you have to account for is things can get outdated. It's very much, I mean, it's internet, it's what's trendy. Trends, they come and go like that. The question is, will it manage to stay relevant when it actually does come out because they've already released 4 trailer snippets? I know these aren't the actual trailers. They'll probably wait for those until July at the earliest. But even still, I don't think you necessarily needed to release these right now. And I don't really know why. I mean, maybe for the Steve Rogers announcement bit, because he wasn't in the initial casting list for the chairs.
Yeah.
But we already knew everyone else that's in this. You had the one about Thor, the one about the X-Men, and then the one about the Fantastic Four and Wakanda meeting.
Yeah.
We know they're all in the movie. Maybe the part of it is because it's very selective. It's like a character trailer almost. Maybe the idea is to say, hey, look at this. We're fixing all the stuff. We're going to make a movie that asks, what if phases 4, 5, and 6 were good? And we had this great movie that was following up on all that. You know? Because, like, think to the Thor trailer. That was my favorite. What about you?
Yeah, I'd probably have to say the Thor one.
Right. I mean, it's very stoic. There's almost an idea of tragedy when you don't know that Thor is going to suffer a horrible end, but
And and also like if considering how poorly received Love and Thunder was for the majority of it being just it being jokesy and immature, having a mature Thor in a trailer is gonna bring people back like, oh yeah, Thor's a cool character.
I think the Russos sort of just did what Taika Waititi did, funnily enough, because Waititi's strategy was almost like just cut any piece of dead weight to the Thor franchise and Thor's character, and then we get something fresh and cool and awesome with Ragnarok. And then the Russos had to go in and cut off all the excess of Waititi because Waititi's been a good director. I mean, he's done plenty of movies that people like, Ragnarok, of course, Jojo Rabbit, and I liked The Next Goal Wins. I thought it was a funny sort of soccer movie.
And Free Guy was great.
But yes, whatever you just said,
Free Guy.
but oh, Free Guy. I thought that was Sean Levy.
I thought Taika Waititi was directing it.
I don't know
Maybe
about
I'm wrong.
that. Possible. Wouldn't be the first time. But anyway, it seemed like the Russos sort of said, "Hey, let's just take Thor from Infinity War and then make him Doomsday Thor." And is it a bit of what you might call a regression or a reset, trying to ignore how he was characterized in Love and Thunder? Yes, I think so. But did you really want to watch Love and Thunder Thor for Avengers Doomsday? I mean, was that something that anyone would have actually come out to see?
I highly doubt anyone would have enjoyed that.
Exactly. So I think they made the right choice to just have Thor be a more stoic and strong and just almost more Dark World or original Thor level character. Not to that same extent of maybe over Shakespeareanness, but I
I
think we're going
mean,
to get much closer to Infinity War Thor. Not as funny as he can be, like with Ragnarok, but I think Infinity War version is going to be almost exactly what we're going to have in Doomsday.
yep.
But I mean, it's a good trailer. It actually made me excited to see the movie. Same with the Steve Rogers trailer. I mean, I'm not a huge Steve Rogers fan in general. It's not like I dislike him. It's just it's not been the most interesting guy. I
I'm
mean,
just very surprised that Chris Evans agreed to come back and do Steve Rogers again, and I'm also interested to see how they tie in Steve Rogers because they kind of did tie a bow on his story and called it done.
that's where you get Deadpool to come into the movie to say time travel. These timelines are very confusing. I mean, look at it with the X Men. If they're going to bring the X Men into this movie as well, you're going to have all sorts of confusion because you had Deadpool and Wolverine, and you have the Logan. movie that happened in the timeline somewhere. Like nothing makes sense. If you go from even Days of Future Past, Days of Future Past is set in 2024,
Yep.
right? And so at that point, in the first reality, Apocalypse and Sentinels and whatnot, Wolverine goes back and changes that. And so you have a nice little mutant school. They're all doing very nice. They're living it up. And then 5 years later, 2029, Logan happens, and then somehow all the mutants have died. And not a new mutant has been born. It's only been 5 years. 5 years, and everything just went to absolute disaster. I always thought that was a bit of a stretch, personally, but wait, there's more. We know that that's 2029. We know that's 2024. However, when Deadpool and Wolverine comes out and acts like it's in the same universe as the X-Men movies, that's what these Deadpool movies have always been, you have a problem because that one was also set in 2024. Except Wolverine is dead in Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yep.
Now, what you could make the argument of is that Deadpool went to 2029, found Logan dead, and just needed to get a new Logan for the universe. It doesn't make sense. These timelines, they've never made any sense. The X-Men timeline has just been crazy, and Marvel bringing them in sort of is just going to make it a lot harder for a lot of people to understand. But I think it's going to be one of those where it's don't think too hard about it. Just think of the Deadpool quote where he says the timelines are confusing and move on. And I think people will for the sake of the nostalgia they feel for the X-Men and just the fact that, I mean, you got to see not McAvoy, Patrick Stewart and Ian McLennan together for like one last movie as these characters because these guys have to be pushing what, 80, 90?
Something like that. Yeah.
They've been playing these characters for 26 years. I think it's time that they call it a day.
But would that
That's
like
the thing. They're
then
bringing
give them the world record for longest actor played same character or whatever?
it will, unless Hugh Jackman's in another movie of Wolverine.
Yeah.
It's they've been going back and forth on that. Right now, Hugh Jackman has the title after Deadpool and Wolverine, but it could very easily shift. Actually, come to think of it, James Marsden will also receive the title because he's in this movie. And the gal who plays Mystique, she's in, this is going to be a very long amount of people who hold this record thanks to Avengers Doomsday.
Yep.
And imagine if they all come back for Secret Wars.
Oh, but wait, then we're also gonna have Green Goblin arrive somehow.
Oh no. Now Willem Dafoe needs to be done. And he's really great. He's actually a really good villain for
He,
Spider-Man No Way
he
Home.
he's also a
I sort of
very
wish they had
talented
just stuck with
actor.
them. Oh yeah. I think they should have probably stuck with him. And maybe had one or two other villains for No Way Home, not done the overcrowding of villains. That's always like the last Spider-Man movie issue. Like Spider-Man 3, Amazing Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man No Way Home. They overcrowded too many villains. At least they're traditional, I guess. But we're off topic. Point is, do you think that this release strategy is working? That it's not going to age poorly in the coming months?
I think it's gonna work for the first couple months, but then after a while, people are just gonna be like, "All right, just hurry up and release our movie already."
Possibly. It's just it's tough because you can't really be certain that you're going to be able to hold their interest when you start this early because then you have to keep giving them stuff. And then if you have to keep giving them stuff to keep their interest up, then they might feel like, oh, I've seen the movie from all the advertising and I don't need to go watch it in theaters.
At that point, yeah,
That's, yeah, that's why I sort of try to avoid the marketing for the movies actually because I don't want to see the whole movie before I go see it.
that's fair.
But I know I am going to see it. Are you going to go see it when it
Oh
comes
yeah,
out?
of course.
Oh, well, sometimes you don't, so
Well, this one actually
never
looks
know.
promising.
Promising. we'll see if Marvel can learn from their mistakes. I think Spider-Man Brand New Day is going to be another good indicator of that because it's coming out right before Doomsday. I think it's going to have a lot to do with setting up the
Yeah,
ideas of what's going to happen. As much as they want it to be a street level movie, I don't think they're going to get to have that because they say the Hulk is going to be in that movie, or at least Bruce Banner.
I do think I heard
So
something about that. Yeah.
between that and Matt Gargan as the Scorpion and the Punisher, they're just throwing everyone in here. You know what I did notice?
What?
Marvel movies are very bad at using Breaking Bad actors, or Better Call Saul actors, I guess. Like you got Matt Gargan, the guy who plays the Scorpion. He was Nacho Varga in Better Call Saul. Very good. But then you got to do nothing. And then you have Tony Dalton, who played Lalo Salamanca, and he's just a nice guy, a chill guy in Hawkeye. Like I don't know, like hashtag justice for Breaking Bad characters. The Gillivers, yeah. Hashtag justice for the Gillivers. They deserve better. Yeah, but regardless, on the subject of Doomsday, a certain country leader faced his doom and his demise as president. El Presidente Maduro is no longer the sitting president of Venezuela. He is in American custody. What say you, Austin?
Well, Trump Trump told him, "Hey, quit acting the way you are, or you're gonna end up in jail." Maduro said,
And
"I bet." He very quickly learned you don't mess with the United States, especially not the United States Marines.
he did say, "Come and get me," so he sort of had it coming.
But the people of Venezuela are rejoicing. The dictator is gone, and they can actually hopefully have food other than zoo animals to eat because that's how bad the food shortage was.
Right. Like there's been it has been said that going and capturing and lifting Maduro out of there, taking him as our prisoner, that wasn't quite legal. But if he is an illegally self-proclaimed dictator, then like does it apply? Because like I think it's like this is a nation's leader. We can't just kidnap a nation's leader. But if he's not the actual nation's leader because he's there illegally and he's just a dictator, does that does that change how it should be viewed legally?
I mean, it's also, I mean, by the end of the day, there's no judge over what's legal and what's not when it concerns multiple countries and world leaders.
Maybe not. That's why they have the NATO stuff in the
Well, the NATO is specific.
International Law Tribunal.
So,
Whatever.
so there's a difference between the UN and NATO. NATO was formed specifically because Russia or at that time the USSR was such a giant massive threat that the rest of Europe essentially and the United States had come create this pact between each other. If Russia starts stuff, we will all be involved. Like if one
Hmm.
country gets invaded, the entirety of this alliance comes and supports.
All right. What about the UN tribunal then? Like someone's got to have some international law because I remember one of those two put out like an arrest warrant for Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, and the Hamas leader. It was like, I don't think that either of you are doing very nice things, so I want y'all to both stand trial. But I mean, is there, like I said, there's got to be some sort of tribunal, people, law, international case. Otherwise, they can't be arrested and held to trial because there would be no one. Would have to have some sort of international council of sorts.
So I mean, there are technically the UN is essentially just all the world leaders come together, but by the end of the day, there is no judge over the world leaders to say you committed a crime. Now we have like the Geneva Convention over War Crimes, but that's a whole different issue and topic. Um, there's so much gray area when it comes to stuff like that.
Right? And we are not lawyers. We should have brought Daniel onto the show as our legal counsel.
Maybe.
Yeah, he probably wouldn't have known a whole lot. But another thing that people are upset about is this oil thing because they're saying that we're only attacking Venezuela for their oil. And to be fair, Trump did say there was some oil and we're keeping this oil. I'm not sure how legal that is either, but I also don't think that this was purely an oil related attack.
No, it was not. So Maduro was a he was there helping traffic illegal drugs and illegal weapons into the United States, and he was profiting off of that. Um, and Trump had he he's doing his best. Now, I'm not praising Trump, and I'm not saying he's doing the right thing all the time, but he's doing what he believes is correct to stop illegal drug trafficking and illegal weapon trafficking into the United States because that is harmful to the people of the United States and harmful to those around. Um, Maduro was profiting off of the illegal trafficking of this stuff, and being as he was also illegally in office, he was not elected to be president. He lost the election and just said, no, I refuse, and stayed in office. And he was profiting off of the absolute horrendous things he was doing to the Venezuelan people, such as food shortages to the point they had to eat zoo animals. Um, Poverty was at an all-time low. Homelessness was becoming rampant throughout Venezuela. So the people in Venezuela are cheering for Trump. They are praising him. They're saying, "Thank you for getting rid of this horrible person." And Trump even said he's going to temporarily run until they find someone suitable for office.
Maybe that's what they mean because they did have the vice president of Maduro, like they had her sworn in to be the like acting president. So maybe she's there and then the US is also there until they sort it out into who's officially there. Might be what they're doing. I don't know. It's all very complicated and above, what we know for certain because there's so many moving pieces. But I do agree that it's probably not just an oil related thing. Do I think that we could attack it just as an oil thing? I wouldn't put it past America, especially given what's going on with Greenland. But I don't think in this specific case of Venezuela, it was purely
Also,
about that
with
resource.
Trump's comments about ever since Trump was elected in office in 2016, um, he's wanted Greenland, not necessarily just because of the oil, but because of the geographical stronghold that Greenland is. Because if the United
Well, I
States
know
was
I
in
played Risk. I
control,
played plenty of Risk. Greenland is pretty important.
yeah, it's got good oil, but it's also geographically such. Well, yes, it's under the Kingdom of Denmark. Denmark has refused giving Trump Greenland, and even the people of Greenland are saying no, we don't want to become part of the United States.
Oh,
Trump has made comments of recent saying he wouldn't mind using military force to take Greenland. Same thing
probably
with
not
just
best
about
moment.
the rest of Central and Southern America as well.
But why would we even? Okay, I can understand why we might want Greenland. Why would we want to touch Central or South America? Like, I have nothing against the people, but like these places tend to be poorly run government wise and economically not that great. Venezuela is probably just the top, the sharpest. You don't want that to be a part of your economy. Example. But I don't think we need to be an empire. We don't need to be Britain. We spent a whole war fighting off Britain. We ought to know that having to deal with an empire probably isn't
Well, Trump's
the
not
best
trying.
thing, and
He's
people
not
don't
trying to
usually.
build an empire, but so throughout history, the United States of America has essentially been the world police. Should we be? No, but every president throughout our history, not just Trump, Obama, Bush, Clinton, uh, Carter, Roosevelt, nearly every single president we've had has essentially said, the world isn't going to do anything about this. I will. And we have gotten ourselves into things we shouldn't have, but we have. And that's what Trump is doing now is South America and Central America is so full of crime, drug trafficking, weapon trafficking, sex trafficking, murder, and so many other horrendous crime acts going on there.
So, but are you suggesting that we almost as a it's necessary to destroy the town to save it, as in we don't want it, we just want to help fix it, or just take it over and keep it? Because I think there's a difference between policing, trying to safeguard the peace, and then manifest destiny, which you know no one's heard the end of for the past century or so, because it wasn't America's finest moment for a number of reasons. You know, this that's the question. Like, are we trying to just make places better or make places America?
Uh, I think that America should probably stick to its own internal affairs at the moment and stop trying to be a world police. But I'm also not a world leader. I don't know everything going on. I'm not in those offices and meetings and talk. But there are also, especially like Cuba. Cuba's a big supporter of Russia, a big enemy of Trump, and Trump's like, "Hey, you're high on my list next to invade." He also said that to Mexico. "Hey, you're high on the list next. Watch out." Should he be making those comments? I don't think he should. Should he be invading other countries because he can? Absolutely not. But if we're going to fix the poverty issue, fix the crime issue, maybe. The thing is, we're not trying to liberate and bring democracy. We tried that previously in the Middle East. That did not work out very well for us.
No, I think a lot of people are just adverse to that idea. I think a lot of people see Venezuela and think it's going to be another Iraq situation, and that's why a lot of them are more adverse to it. I don't think that's necessarily what we're trying to do, especially because of how fast we took care of Maduro compared to like Saddam Hussein. They're obviously not the same situation, but it is a good contrast. And like I said, I don't think it's necessarily the exact same plan. But yes, I agree. There's not a lot of good reason, I think, to be policing the world when there's enough issues in America that we could fully keep ourselves occupied with for the whole time that Trump is in office, and all the politicians for that matter. Like, let's better ourselves before we better everyone else. Yeah.
Yep. But unfortunately, we're not in any position of power, so we can't really tell anyone what to do.
Probably for the best. We'd probably own Greenland by now if we were in power.
If we're in power, there'd be so much wrong in the world at this point. So much chaos.
Greenland and Iceland, Ireland, maybe throw in Finland. I don't know anything about Finland, but I like the name Finland. I think it's Finns. What do you say? You want Finland?
Sure. So let's just take over the UK while we're at it.
No, I don't think we want them. We're a little too pro. Let's take Scotland instead.
Hmm.
Plenty of drinking to do there. Anyway, that is all that we have for today.
Yep.
So keep an eye out for Carlos Sainz in F1 racing as a dark horse top driver. And turn on your TV Saturday, Sunday, Monday for the NFL playoffs. And don't root for the Chargers or the Eagles because they're evil. Yes, hopefully. And let us know what you think about Avengers Doomsday and Venezuela and anything else. Drop suggestions for things that you want to hear us talk about, and we'll get around to them if we, have time. Because we have so many ideas. Like we don't even know what to do with them.
There's a lot to
Like
talk
what we're
about.
talking about. Like yeah, like that thing we're talking about next week. You know that thing, Austin?
Oh yeah, I know what we're talking about next week. It'll be fun.
Oh yeah, that thing. Yeah, it'll be great. Yeah, we know what we're doing.
It'll be great.
Anyway, that's gonna be all. Gonna be all for today. For now, it's Doctor Road and Top Hill Hydra, right?
Yep.
What kind of a name is Top Hill Hydra?
It just long story.
Anyway, that's my diagnosis. That's my diagnosis. I think
Anyway,
it's a good catchphrase.
thanks for joining us, everyone. We shall see you next week.
Yeah, see you then.